Good evening, everyone. The hush falls over the crowd. Yeah, absolutely. Not quite yet, but almost getting there. So, well, good evening, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, and our candidates, thank you for being here this evening. On behalf of the Lee Summit Chamber, we welcome you to this evening's Lee Summit Mayoral Candidate Forum. I am Tim Arbeiter, President of the Lee Summit Chamber, and so glad you could be with us here this evening. A couple housekeeping items. First and foremost, if you would like to have a question submitted for consideration by the moderators, we have some note cards in the back of the room on some round tables with some pens. Feel free to write down your question. We have a volunteer who's actually the vice chair of our Governmental Affairs Committee, Ms. Vic Cundiff. Vic, where are you at so everybody can see you? She's not in the room. Vic, wave. There you go. Vic will collect your cards, bring that up to the moderator table. We will do the best we can. We have a great program lined out for this evening with some great questions. We will do our best we can to include as many audience questions as we can. Another couple housekeeping items. These lovely things called cell phones, if you wouldn't mind silencing your cell phones, that'll help keep the attention on this evening's candidates for this evening. If you need the restrooms, they're out the back and across the hallway, so they're immediately across the hallway for your use. But again, thank you for being here tonight. We are deeply honored to have the Lee Summit Mayoral candidates with us tonight. I would like to take just a minute to thank each of these leaders for, one, having the amount of passion and commitment for Lee Summit that you've actually put your name on the ballot to be considered for public office for this noble position. So for that, the Chamber thanks you for putting your face out there. So. Before we kick some things off, we need to do some thank yous. Definitely want to thank the Missouri Innovation Campus, this amazing facility who is hosting us this evening. So thank you to them for that. I'd also like to thank our sponsors for this evening. So Will Gibson with Down to Earth Services, Mark Parrish with Boyd, Kettner, Thomas, and Parrish, Jabbar Wesley with Spire Energy, and Mr. Chad Goffrey with Summit Video Services. Actually, Chad is here this evening with his team. He's actually recording us and putting this live tonight on our Facebook feed. Will be recorded and loaded up later for future use. So, Chad, thank you to you and your team for doing this. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our two moderators for this evening. To my immediate right, in the middle of this wonderful table, is Mr. Mike Allen, Chair of our Legislative Committee for the Chamber of Commerce, and Mr. Andrew Felker, Chair of the Chamber's Governmental Relations Committee. Both of these fine gentlemen are wonderful leaders and great volunteers for our community. And with that, let us get our forum started.
All right, thank you for being here. Good evening, and welcome to the Lee Summit Chamber, Lee Summit Mayoral Candidate Forum. Before we hear from the distinguished gentleman, I want to outline our format for this evening. We're not going to play Karnak the Magnificent with the envelope. We won't do any of that, but we have questions, and the audience questions, please hold them up high so they can be collected and brought up. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes for opening remarks. We will go in alphabetical order, and we'll go in reverse order if time allows for final remarks at the end. After the opening comments by the candidates, we will have a question and answer session. Questions have been generated by members of the Lee Summit Chamber, and then obviously tonight's audience questions. If you would like to pose questions, please fill out the card, bring them forward, or Vic will pick them up. We do not accept questions that are targeted specifically to a person. We do not, or a specific candidate. We ask that candidates keep their answers to 2 minutes. Both the opening remarks and answer the questions will be timed. We have plenty of batteries up here so the timers will not run out. Once the alarm goes off, please consider, please be considerate and finish speaking. Ask the candidates to please honor the time allowed. When you came in this evening, you would have noticed the profile booklets in the back, or at the entrance. So please take one of these if you do not have one already. So these are information that was provided to the candidates ahead of time, and they were reproduced exactly as provided, not edited. There was no change in the questions and the answers. Lastly, as I said, we'll provide 1 minute to each candidate at the end of the forum for any closing remarks. So in alphabetical order, the first person to speak will be Bill Baird, followed by Rob Benny, then Ron Williams. Mr. Baird, you may begin. You have 2 minutes.
Okay. Usually the opening question is, why do you want to be mayor? I'm the kind of person that has lived my life thinking that and believing that each person's life touches so many other lives. And sometimes you never know the positive impact you've had on a person and then people beyond that person. Over the last few months, and especially the last few weeks, I've been reminded by friends, neighbors, people that I've touched their lives, such as a person that said they wanted a sign in their yard because during the recession I helped them keep their house from going in foreclosure. And then last week I talked to a businessman that said, you know, hey, you not only saved my commercial building, but you saved my business, and now he's having great success right now. I've had teachers contact me and say they want a sign in the yard because they appreciate what I did for them on the school board. And then when it comes to probably the most moving thing that I've had happen is I had quite a few seniors in my son's senior class that I've coached over all the years register to vote because they want to show their appreciation for the time I've given them. And all of this really makes me feel great, but I'll tell you what, when I have the citizens of the community reaching out to me saying, hey, put us on yard, what you did as an elected official was a great thing. All of this has really been quite humbling, but also quite exhilarating. And I've been moved by it and over the last few years, and I want to do more. I want the opportunity to do more as mayor. I want to help more businesses with bringing economic activity here. I want to help the citizens of the community by making sure we have a safe place to live, and I want to touch the youth in ways that I think only a mayor can by leading the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Let's hear from Rob Benny.
Thank you. Is this on? Working correctly. Thank you. My name is Rob Benny, and I'm ready to be your mayor. I've spent the last 6 years experiencing things that I never thought I'd experience, even as a political science major. So to stand here today in front of you as a candidate is truly humbling. I want to thank Bill and Ron for also putting themselves out there. As you find out, once you become an elected official, not everybody likes you like you thought they did. So it's a humbling experience, and to go through it, I think, is what's good for the community. I appreciate all of you being here tonight. What's so great, and as I had a thought about what I might say if I got asked the question of why do you want to be mayor, but then being here at the MIC, it kind of brings it all together for me, and it's about the collaboration. Here we're in an example of collaboration between UCM, the R7 School District, and MCC Longview. But we're also at a collaboration of citizens here tonight from various walks. I see developers, I see builders, I see seniors, I see a couple of kids that aren't even eligible to vote. But I see a variety of people that are here together all for one reason, because they care about the community. So what I believe in is that this community is a great place, and it's our job as elected officials to take what's great and to make it better and to leave it better than we found it. So I look forward to the opportunity to share those thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Mr. Ron Williams.
Thank you all for attending. Yeah, I probably do need glasses. Before I go too far and use up part of my 2 minutes, I have to say something. This is very professionally done by the chamber, and I think they deserve an applause in that. But before you applause, I want to say something else. You see all these three faces up here? Believe it or not, there are 3 mothers out there that love those faces. So, why am I running? I'm a lifetime resident of Lee Summit. I've been on, I don't even know how many organizations. I have a long history here in this town, and I've been involved in many, many organizations. There is no doubt in my mind that to serve as a mayor would be a great honor, but it was also something I feel like I should do. I think I have enough relationships a communication style that people accept, and the ability to help people come along, as I was helped when I got up to this level. And we're all in interest of this community. We all want to see this community prosper and grow. And is that 1 minute? And I just think that the time is right for me personally. I think I have the personality and the temperament for it. And I think one of the things you have to be as a mayor is you have to be patient and willing to listen to the constituents talk to you, and then be willing to act on what they say. Thanks.
Thank you to each of you for your opening remarks. We'll move into the next step here, into the questions and answer portion. Audience members, remember, if you have questions, please hand them in. Vic Cundiff, I'm sure, is walking around as well. First question will be posed by Andrew.
Thank you. And we'll have a different order for each question. So just so you know, we'll give you a preview. Rob, you'll be first now, then Ron, and then back to Bill, and then we'll cycle with Ron. You'll be the first, and then around the room. So the first question, you've talked a little bit about this already to some extent in your opening remarks, but Rob, if you could lead off with this and answer this question. How do you intend to go about gaining support and consensus with the City Council in your leadership as mayor?
Thank you, Andrew. I think if I'm going to stand up, I hope that's okay. The role as the mayor will be changing very shortly. This last year, the voters decided to change the composition and the role of the mayor going forward, which takes away the mayor's veto authority on any bill that's passed, but it makes the mayor a voting member on ordinances as we go forward. Easy way to think of it is the mayor's going to have the opportunity to either be for something or against something, or to lead the discussion if there's not certainty of whether something's good for the community or whether it's not. The mayor's going to play that pivotal role of helping everybody be heard, ask the questions, and try and lay a foundation for a good, sound decision-making process. So I think the continued collaboration, but also a little bit more leadership from the center on issues. So, thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Ron? Repeat the question, sure. So how do you as mayor intend to go about gaining support and consensus in your work with the City Council?
I think the first thing you have to do as mayor is get to know your council. And I think you gain more support if the council knows each other. One of the things I'm going to suggest to the council, and there'll probably be a few in here that are cringe, is I'm going to suggest the council take a personality profile test and exchange it among each other. So they get to know each other. They get to know what their personalities are like, what their, the way they process. I think that will help build collaboration once there's this issue of conspiracy or there's one side or the other. So first start by talking to them and having them talk to each other. And then the other thing is, when there's an issue out there, frame the issue. A lot of times when a council, when a body, it doesn't have to be the council, I've seen it other places, when something comes up, they get confused in themselves. And so in the end, before a vote is taken or before something goes on, you want to find out where they are, recap the issue. Recap and find out what it's about, and then put it out there. It also helps the public, because I've said in meetings in days gone by where a council may know what it's saying, or the council and the mayor know what it's saying, but the public out here, they're lost. They don't really understand where you're at in that level of conversation. So I think one of the things to do is communicate, try to motivate, and then act on an issue.
Ron. Bill, would you like me to repeat the question?
Consensus and support, how to build consensus and support.
With the City Council.
I believe that the first thing that we have to do is establish some ground rules, and it needs to come from the council themselves, the council members. I think that there's you can tell that there's been a lot of tension, and therefore we need to talk about things that they feel are important to be respected. And once we can come together and build that consensus towards how to treat each other, how to respect each other, it's not just parliamentary procedure like some people have said to me. We have to start there to resolve any kind of conflicts so that we can start moving forward together. The second thing I would say is we have to agree to disagree. That's one thing that is easier said than done. But as mayor, I have to try to, basically talk about the elephant in the room, that sometimes people are still mad about the way someone spoke to them from the previous meeting or from 5 minutes before. And I believe the mayor can have a very influential participation with regard to restating, finding a different way to help that person based on what they said so that someone maybe understands their point. And the final thing I would say is that we have to, I have to maintain order and make sure everyone is respected. So the mayor has to step in, has to stop when someone maybe does something to another person. I have to say we have to work together, and we're not going to get there based on what was just the way you just said it. We have to stick to the ground rules. Thanks.
Thank you for your answers to that question. We'll move to Ron first on this question. As mayor, how do you anticipate monitoring and measuring the progress of the city manager, city boards, and commissions? Specifically, how do you see yourself involved in those activities?
As far as monitoring the city manager, the mayor works closely with the city manager, but the people that judge the city manager in the end are going to be the council, so you need to make sure that the council is aware of what's going on, and you need to be sure that the information that the city manager gives you is fair and complete. A lot of times you may not like it, but it's going to come to you. As far as monitoring organizations and boards and commissions, the council has liaisons, and these liaisons' responsibility are to come back and report to the council on any given night what is going on in that group. Are they making progress? Eventually, if there was conflict in the group, it would come back to the mayor or a city councilman, and hopefully everybody would be comfortable enough to talk about it civilly and monitor that group to see, and find out if there's an issue like personality issue, or if it's an issue that they just don't agree on something. But the only way I know to do it is to have open conversation and let people bring their comments forward, but make sure that the representatives that go to these commissions are comfortable in bringing it back to the council. And then we emphasize, all of us probably will, a civil conversation, civil discourse.
Thank you, sir. Bill, you take notes. Do you want me to repeat the question? You're good.
So with regard to city management, our role as council and mayor is to set policy. If we set good policy, then city management follows policy, and we're in good shape. Yes, we have to make sure that we're being accountable to that policy, which I'm a policy guy. That's going to be something important to me. But setting good policy is critical. And I can get into specifics, but I need to move into the second part of that, which was so committees. I've been going to all the committees. I see some passionate people, but we need more passionate people. We need more people involved in this community. I've been to the committees, and I can tell you got people that aren't showing up sometimes, and people are frustrated, and we have got to reach out to the talent. We are so rich in talent in this community. We've got to reach out and get more people involved at the committee level. And a big part of that for me as mayor is going to be, I have to pick a pro tem. That's a new charter change. The mayor picks a pro tem. The mayor pro tem is going to have to be somebody that really is passionate and wants to work, because I want them to make sure that they're encouraging committees. They're encouraging them to, we can do more. We can, being involved in yes, we have a council person that goes to the committees, but we need to make sure that all of our committees are functioning at a high level. And I'm going to be honest, they're not all functioning at a high level. I've been in the meetings, and I've seen days where I showed up to the meeting and not enough people showed up to even have a meeting or have a quorum. So a mayor pro tem, whoever that is going to need to be willing to jump in and be a very big cheerleader and help drive the committee level with regard to activity. Thanks.
Rob, you want me to circle back, ask the question again, or are you good? Okay. As mayor, how do you anticipate monitoring and measuring the progress of your city manager, the boards and commissions? Specifically, how do you see yourself involved in those activities?
Let's start with the basis. The city council and the mayor, we have 2 employees. There may be 700 some full-time city employees, but the city council and the mayor have 2 employees. We have hired the city manager and the city attorney. After that, it's their job to run the organization and do the day-to-day stuff. As a council, we have ebb and flow with our interactions with the city manager. Some days everybody's happy, some days everybody's mad, some days we're in between. The job of a city manager, when everybody wants to know why that guy gets paid money, it's because he has to deal with all the elected people. So what we have there is 8 and 9 people that have different views sometimes. And I think Bill mentioned, sometimes we're not all going to get along. When the boards and commissions comes up, it's something that I've seen, and particularly with the committees and our liaison roles, it's not like it used to be. There used to be a commitment from elected officials that if you were the liaison, you attended those meetings. Unfortunately, the last few years, the liaison attendance has dropped way off to the point that some of these organizations come to me and ask, do we still have a liaison, or is there anything we need to be doing? Are we doing something wrong? It's a matter of trying again to get everybody engaged with the commitment to serve the role as a committee member, as a liaison. These citizen groups are what's so important. And as we talk about how to do that going forward, it's a long-range strategic plan again, bringing back another Lee Summit 360. This time it's going to look a whole lot different. They're going to be smaller groups. They're going to be online opportunities. But getting the community input on how they want to see these boards and commissions going forward. Some of these commissions are 20 years old and they haven't had a meeting in a few years, and they don't have half the membership anymore. We're looking to see if all the rules can be changed and updated. I'm not very good at hand signals. Oh, thank you. Okay, so we're looking at ways to do that, but I think as the mayor, we'll have the opportunity to lead that further.
Thank you, Rob. Bill, I think you lead off on this one. And it's 2 questions, so I'm going to give you 2. But they're really somewhat related, but a little different. So what do you think is the biggest opportunity facing our city, and how do you address it? And then what do you identify as the biggest challenge facing our city, and how do you address it?
Okay, so the biggest opportunity is, in my opinion, the fact that this is the greatest place to live. This is the greatest community. There is so much passion, so much creativity, so much diversity in our community. And I know from firsthand experience that people care and they want to be involved. They have to start being asked. If we get more people involved, it's a theme of mine, I know, but I'm going to tell you, an engaged citizenry is a healthy community, and that is the biggest opportunity. I plan on pushing that and promoting that my entire term. We're going to do things to reach out, bring more people to the table, because there's talent everywhere. There's from business people to the cultural arts to amazing educators in every corner of the community. The second part of that was the biggest challenge. I would say there's a few challenges, but I think there's so many opportunities. I think the only thing holding us back right now is consensus that we were talking about earlier. Getting our council and us working together. Every council member is a great person up there. I truly believe they're good people. They do have disagreements. They don't all get along about certain things. But if we start working together, if we start seeing the bigger picture of how can we find that middle ground, it's not going to be one or the other. We're going to have to find some middle ground. That's going to be our biggest challenge, but I'll tell you what, the sky's the limit after that. Thank you.
Yes, Rob.
Can I say the biggest opportunity is our biggest challenge? I think our biggest opportunity is where we are and where we go from here. We already have a great community. Our opportunity is to make it better. Our opportunity is to get more people involved. Our opportunity is find ways to make things better in the future. That'll come with its own challenges. Revenues are changing. The revenue streams that cities deal with are changing. Every day in Jefferson City, we're under attack by the state legislature for the same reasons that they feel under attack from the federal legislature. Special tax breaks here, we're going to take away municipal authority there, we're going to put a utility pole right there in front of somebody's house, and there's nothing the city can say or do about it because we think it's the right thing to do. The revenue streams are changing. Sales taxes are going to go flat. Without a use tax, the moms and pops continue to lose their retail. Without stabilizing somehow our revenue sources, we'll have greater challenge in the futures that we won't be able to pay for. Those opportunities lie within not only the growth of the city, but we're turning a certain age. We've got a city that's almost going to hit 100,000 in population. What does that mean? We have people turning 65 plus every day. Are we going to be a community that not only embraces our suburbs and our young families, but are we going to continue to make things available and accessible to those over 65 or 55, or as people like to say, the older crowd? So we have that opportunity in front of us. Our opportunities will be our greatest challenges as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Ron?
You to repeat it.
Absolutely. So I asked two questions. What do you think is the biggest opportunity facing our city? How are you going to address that? And then what would you identify as the biggest challenge facing our city, and how do you address it?
My opinion, the biggest opportunity we have is to take what we have, our resources, and to grow the city economically. It will take care of a lot of tax problems. It will take care of a lot of wage problems. It will take care of a lot of things if we could simply take the city and grow it, invite, and have dynamic development in it. I firmly believe that the community's tax base will rise if the community is engaged in and supports growth, manufacturing, industrial, commercial. We need all of it, and we need quality development, dynamic development. Challenge-wise, I think the primary challenge we have is engaging you folks to let us know what you want, and then for us to listen to it. Not to be afraid to talk to you, not to be afraid to take your issues forward, not to be afraid to represent you. Because without you telling us what you want, we're going to stumble somehow to some of you over an issue. So my hope and desire is that as mayor, one of the things I would do is to invite you in to talk to your representatives about the issues you think are important and have them come back and represent those. I can tell a quick story. In my neighborhood one time, I had to represent 50% of the people didn't like what was going to happen, 50% did. I pulled them aside, said, I'll tell you the best argument you can give for what you don't like. I'll tell you the best argument you can give for those of you who do like it. And then you go before the council and you plead your case. So as elected officials, and as a mayor especially, you're going to talk to a lot of people who are going to be happy, but the challenge you've got is to make sure they believe they've been heard. And I can't think of anything worse than having any resident go out and say they're not paying attention to us, they don't care.
Rob, I believe you're next. If elected, you will be the mayor that participates in voting. How will this affect your facilitation of the meetings?
I think it's going to present an opportunity. Today, I think we sometimes get off track. I think I've watched some of the days back when Ron and other people served in the past, and the council members made their point and they were heard, and then they moved on. And today we have a culture where everybody wants to be heard about 15 times, and it gets monotonous. So I think there's something to run a meeting effectively, but on point and staying to the subject and germane to what we're dealing with at the time. How does that work going forward? I think the meeting itself can still be run effectively. As the facilitator of the meeting, you have a role to make sure that everybody that wants to be heard can be heard, but also to be able to reel people back in, and if the same comments or the same thoughts are being shared, asking to move on and let's get to a point. So I think the mayor's going to have a unique opportunity to do those things.
Thank you, Rob. I will. If elected, you will be the mayor that participates in voting. How will this affect your facilitation council meetings?
Well, I'm going to plug myself as the guy who promoted this in the Charter Review Commission to have the mayor vote. One of the things I thought about was exactly that. I don't think it's going to have any effect at all. I think what happens is you can now take a position as a voting member, not of the council, but as the executive part, and you now facilitate in terms of you engage in the conversation. You now have a reason to lead something instead of trying to stay impartial. I've watched a lot of mayors try to be impartial about a subject. They'll ask questions, things like that, but my role is to facilitate. No, your role is to lead on an issue. If you don't like an issue as a mayor, then lead against it. If you do like the issue, lead for it, but lead. And the other thing it will do is it creates a record. So once you have this record, it's very difficult to vote against someone who might vote once in a while and votes to break a tie. But as far as facilitating it, I don't think it should have any problem at all, because now you can listen to your council, and then you can chime in yourself on what you believe is to be correct or not, and then you get involved. But I just don't see it being a hindrance to any good discussion and good decision making.
Thank you, Ron. Bill, you want me to repeat?
No, I'm good. I'm excited to advocate, like Ron's saying, to lead, and it would be hard for me not to. I want to vote. And when you vote, you get to advocate for your position. So I want to advocate. I'm going to get to advocate. I get to negotiate. I think that's what I do for a living. So I get to negotiate that middle ground that we're talking about. So in other words, some council members, they might be on different sides, but I think it maybe opens things up, similar to what Ron's saying, to be able to say, hey, how about this, and move everybody closer to one another so we can make good decisions and come to a consensus, so that sometimes we have pretty much a very strong vote for a movement. I do think there's a problem, though. I do think that human nature gets in play, and if I'm advocating and voting in one way, I've got to work really hard to earn the trust of the council members so that they don't get upset with me when I disagree with them or if I'm voting against them. I'm not real excited about that type of thing. As mayor, as a facilitator, it is easier to do if you're not voting, because that way you're not being a part of a divided council. So we've got to get past that. We've got to be able to give me the grace whenever I do vote a certain way, so that I can still be an effective mayor and leader. Thanks.
Thank you, Bill. Ron, you lead off with this one. And this is drawing on some of the questions from the audience, so I'm going to piece it together a little bit. As a new mayor with a new council, how do you continue or resolve the ongoing debate about long-term sustainable solution for funding wage enhancement for employees?
Funding?
So in what ways would you work with the new council to resolve or take a leadership position with resolving the wage enhancement issue? So what's your long-term funding solution for enhancing wages for city employees?
Well, if this is part of the elephant in the room, which is the firefighters, the police, and the machinists union discussion that's been going on.
That would be an accurate,
that's where they're trying to go
view of the
tactfully.
question.
Let's just put it on the table and talk about it.
Sure.
My personal belief is I think we need to grow our way out of this. I talked earlier about economic development. I think that's what we need to do. I'm not a big proponent of a sales tax to do this, and I'm not a big proponent of taking money out of reserves. But I do believe they all need a wage, and a wage increase has been a while. So I think the problem the present council is dealing with is there's such a division on which way to go. They've boxed themselves in corners, and the answer is not easy and not clear, because it depends on where you want to take the money. You have a reserve, you can take money out of it. Okay, you have sales tax, you can go out and ask you folks for a 1% sales tax. You can cut people to offset for wages. Nobody wants to do that. They had a presentation at the council about cutting services. Nobody wants to do that, either side. But it's not an easy issue. I think growth is the way to get it done. And I'm not sure how much growth we need yet. I'd be honest with you. I'd be lying to you if I told you I knew what exact numbers we need for growth. But I know that I believe in the market system, and I believe tax revenue comes from sales tax predominantly for us and property taxes. And I think that's where the revenue stream is. We just have to be prepared to deal with it. And it's not going to be a fun decision either way it goes. But yes, there's a way to. They've budgeted for a goodly portion of it. They need to get the rest of it, and let's do it by growing.
Thank you, Ron. Bill?
Okay, so long-term solution would be budgeting incremental increases for for staff, all city employees. It's not just the fire and police, as many people have pointed out to me. But what it really comes down to is the city council and city management, they need to get on the same page on terminology. So the general fund, we have a reserve policy minimum of 16.67%. So here we are, 16.67%, and our general fund balance is almost double that, okay? So 30 or more percent. Now, we do need to be very accurate with city management, like Ron said, with where that number really is. Is it 35? Is it 40? Is it 35? Is it 30? What's important is that we then determine, before we can move forward really effectively, we have to determine what a healthy reserve is. If we're at 16.67 is the minimum we want to keep, don't we want to keep a little bit more than that in our reserves? But when we say dip into our reserves or go to the reserves to fund, compensation, I don't know what that means unless we're not going to go below 16.67. But are we okay to maintain a reserve at 25%, 30%, 35%? Council needs to decide that in determining how they want to move forward. I do believe revenues are going to go up. The city management's projected that. So we have opportunity to make these increases incrementally, these compensation increases incrementally, and look at this year to year and adjust. I'm not endorsing a sales tax until I get into office and see, because I just feel like if we're at 40 or 45% reserve or more, that we should not be asking the taxpayers for more money.
Thank you, Bill. Rob?
Man, this is a question we need more than 2 minutes on, it sounds like. Where are we today? Today, the city council had a plan. We had an agreement, and we had a $2 million amount, actually, that we had budgeted this year to do wage increases. What happened? Suddenly, somewhere in the middle, that wasn't enough. Was it collective bargaining? I don't know. But we're sitting here at a junction of, well, we'd like to pay more in salaries, and the workforce is changing. Today's workers aren't as concerned with the benefits that the city used to offer. The health insurance and the retirement that our city employees receive is some of the best you can get in the state. The fact that it's a defined benefit at the end of their retirement instead of a defined contribution speaks volumes. The amount that they pay into that speaks even more volumes. We have good benefits. We have good compensation. The salary is the question that people want to talk about. We want to do something about the salary. We had an agreement. We had a number. We were moving forward, and suddenly that blew up. How do we deal with it going forward? Great question. We have a reserve balance, and the balance fluctuates daily as the city's expenses come in. What does the city have to pay today? What do we have to pay tomorrow? I had an old fire captain come up to me recently and say, Rob, I remember those days on Thursday we got the check, we ran to BLS, we cashed the check, and hope we beat everybody because on Friday some of them bounced. So what happens is that reserve balance has been built up over the years. In 2011, the city took a serious hit in a lawsuit. That reserve balance got cut down to very little. We lost our AAA credit rating, which means when we wanted to do development or we wanted to build, the cost to borrow those funds increased. Where are we today? through good budgeting, I think, on behalf of the city manager and also the elected. Oh, wow, I haven't even got into it. Sorry.
Thank you, Rob.
All right, we're moving on to a little bit different subject, and there was a question from the audience that is very similar, so I'll wind these together. As our community continues to grow, housing needs for a variety of different socioeconomic sectors is necessary, such as senior and more affordable options. As mayor, what should we be doing to address these types of developments? And Bill, you're first up. I should have said that first. So, as mayor, what should we be doing to address the types of developments for senior and more affordable options in our community?
I will answer that in a second, but I do want to say that first I want to go back to that last question. You know, in the Lee Summit 360 that was done over 10 years ago said that we were supposed to have competitive pay. That was supposed to be a priority for this community. And I do not agree that they have competitive pay, including benefits. So that's number one. And I know that it's debatable, and I would love to debate with Rob at the Whistle Stop Cafe or wherever sometime and really get into it. But I just don't feel it's competitive. Secondly, the reserve balance. I just want to. I don't know if we're going to have more questions on that, but I do want to say that the reserve balance needs to be healthy. Okay, and I think that there is room in there, and I know with the great city management that we have, that we can move forward. We just need to agree to that. We need to get the council on the same page with regard to the terms. Housing needs. My mom is the perfect candidate. She lives in a house in Lee Summit, and the only reason she was able to buy that home was because of the recession and the price dropped. She lives in a $120,000 or more home that she got for $78,000 back in the recession. And luckily she had a good job and was able to do that. But she could not buy a home today. That's impossible for her to buy a home. She can't afford a $120,000 home. So we do have needs, and it's going to have to take a different kind of product. You're going to have the right developer, and it can be done. It's going to have to be slab homes. It's going to have to be in the right, big enough location. But that's not going to be in the heart of Lee Summit because the dollars are not there. I mean, the land is too expensive. So we're going to have to think outside the box and find the right kind of developer and build the right kind of product.
Bill, thank you. Rob, I'll phrase the question again as mayor.
It's okay. Your mom
All right.
probably had a good realtor too, I'm betting. So you have at least, do you have your license? There might be 3 licensed realtors up here, a builder and a finance guy. So I think every answer you get on this question is important to hear. The housing environment that we're in today, Lee Summit has found a sweet spot. Between 300 and 400 new rooftops each year over the last 4 to 5 years has been a consistent model for our community. It's allowed development. It's allowed the increase in the assessed value. It's allowed new folks and new families to come into town without overburdening our services, without overburdening our infrastructure, and without overburdening our schools. Where do we go from here? We've approved approximately 1,500 rooftops that I can think of, and there's probably another 300 or 600 out there in the pipeline. We've put up multifamily. We've put up apartments, which hadn't been done in Lee Summit in a long time. Are those apartments that you or I lived in college? No. These are places that are $1,000 and above a month. These are places with amenities like you find in the new homes. These are renters by choice. They want the stainless appliances. They want granite countertops. They want glass tile backsplash. They want all the things that make them feel like they're in a brand new home in these rental apartments. What's the cap on that? How many can we hold? How far do we absorb? We don't know yet. But I think there's some concern, and we've expressed that at the council. But let's slow down a little bit on the apartments approval. Let's see what happens. The environment for what housing looks like going forward, Bill and I are both still searching for that right developer to come in and do those slab homes. There's a great market in that 175 to 250 market of people that would love to have a little villa, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, maybe a half office, sewing room, utility room.
Whistle Stop Cafe later.
Bill, they are not a sponsor today, so just, it's all right. You can pay your $1 in Rotary for that comment, though, so that'll work.
Thank you. What I think we're really alluding to is affordable housing without using the phrase affordable housing for seniors. And one of the things we can look at from a city is the standards we set, what it takes, what it costs to build here. There are people who think it's outrageous to build here. Actually, the outrageous to build here is offset by the asset value and the increased value of your homes that you own, because it costs them. I had a young man tell me the problem with this area is no young people can afford to buy homes or buy ground. He wanted to do some development. But to get it to the place that seniors are helped, one, the federal government offers help, and this is not a political statement, it's just out there. They do offer help. We have it here. We have several senior housing additions. Do we need more? Probably. If the community grows, we're going to have older people, and there's a place for them. I'm more concerned about what do we do to make it safe for them, and what do we do to make sure that we don't force people out of the community because of prices. I think that it's a tough situation for seniors because they are looking at really high-priced things here. Bill alluded to his mom being able to buy a house during the downturn. Okay, one of the things that happens is if that were to prevail, then the values of everybody's place would go down. So you're kind of caught in a catch-22. You can hope it goes down, but if we all dropped in value, then that means the assessed valuation goes down. That means the taxes and services to the community go down. So it doesn't go to directly answering senior housing, but an affordable senior housing, but it does go to the point that we have to be mindful of the regulations that would prevent that and encourage people to look at us, developers especially, to look at this area for possibilities and then go to some of the things that Rob was talking about here's what they get.
Good time, Rob. Okay, so this is a question from the audience. Each of you have shared the great attributes of our community. And so the question actually is a little bit of a little different tack on the same issue we've just been discussing, but how would you address the growing number of homeless or hungry children and those in need of mental health resources in our community? And Rob, I think you're leading off on this one.
I'll tell you my first answer is I go and visit the folks at Lee Summit Social Services and find out what they're seeing. The hungry and the homeless, I'm constantly asking about that because I see a lot of programs for veterans. How do we help veterans? And one of the things that I've done is checked in with Matt and their team regularly is, hey, do we have a lot of homeless veterans in Lee Summit? And the answer is no. But does that mean the children aren't homeless? No, I've heard those stories. There are some kids that have to go through troubling situations at home and don't have places to go. They sleep at one friend's couch one week and they go to another family the next week. That's something that we as a community obviously care enough to try and do something about. I think as a city, I caution a little bit on getting into the social services too far. I think our job is to help facilitate some of our community partners, the churches, the nonprofits, those groups that are out there that are intended and truly know a whole lot more than a bunch of elected officials sitting inside a city hall on how to help those people. They have the hearts, they have the knowledge and the know-how, and they have the path to help those folks. So I think that's what I'd recommend.
Thank you, Rob. Ron? Come this way now. Yep, you're up.
I think that what has to happen is, and this is, give Rob credit for this, we have some very strong churches, we have social services. This is something for the people to engage themselves in, and that's where we engage those folks too. We ask them to help do this thing, help get involved. Most of them are doing something now. Will they do more? I don't know. I'm not a big proponent of setting up a health. I don't know how to say this. We have food pantries. I'm all for it. It's privately run, but the city does assist and provide some funds to it. So that's available to them. It's tough to go out and say the city should set up a homeless charitable functioning operation that would create to the taxpayers of Lee Summit the need to go ahead and figure out how they're going to pay for this, because once you start this in motion, you can't take it away. That becomes the hard part for it. So we engage the social services, the churches, members of organizations probably many of you are already into, and you try to do the best you can and add to that and provide for this needy group of people we have. And I don't say that with any sort. I say that kind of somberly because it's tough when you're in that situation. You need help, and Lee Summit has always extended a hand to people, and I hope we still do. As a mayor, I would see to it that we try to get people involved in helping solve these problems. I don't look for it to be a city bureaucracy requirement.
Thank you, Ron. Bill, your comments.
Yes. You guys are making it tough. My wife told me smile a lot tonight, and you're giving me these questions that there's no smiling about because the homeless and mental health issue that is happening not just in Lee Summit but across the nation is a bigger issue than the general public realizes or acknowledges. And I was firsthand, I saw so many situations when I was on the school board with homeless children, and it was devastating. And then we would have presentations to the Business Roundtable or to the Citizens Advisory Committee, and we would explain to people, or the school district would explain the situation, how many students were really struggling with being homeless and mental health. And when we interviewed the superintendents during that process, every single candidate listed mental health as the #1 concern going forward in their schools. What do we do about this? We first have to educate and engage the community and let them know that this is a big deal and this is a priority. And then we need to reach out, similar to what both Rob and Ron said, we have got to engage the resources we have. We have fantastic resources in this community that if we get them at the same table, we don't need to be doing this one group at a time. Get them all at the table. Let's do an initiative. Let's do a citizen advisory committee. Let's do something where we can put them all in the same room and unite resources. Again, the answer is right in the room. This is the most passionate and generous community, and it's seen everywhere. So we can make a difference there. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Ron, this question's coming to you, and it's expanding on the issue of social services, but this is a little bit of a different collaborative nature. City has developed working partnerships with key leadership organizations, public institutions, and civic groups. As mayor, what role will you play to maintain positive working relationships between the city and these organizations in our community? You say Ron, I'm sorry.
Well, I think the first thing you do to keep a positive relationship is be positive. To engage these people, bring them forward. I'm a big believer. We have public service agreements with at least 3 organizations that I know of, and there may be more. Chamber, EDC, and Downtown Main Street. You want to keep these things in your community because there's a lot of volunteer hours in this, which means it doesn't require full-time employees. And I think the way you keep this going is you make sure they're at the table with things. You keep people involved in it. You take their volunteer hours and use them, which adds the value of the community in the terms of you have. And some of those people that volunteer don't even live in Lee Summit, but the organizations that they sponsor or they support do. So, my opinion, you keep them involved. You get them to the table on issues. You get them involved in issues, and I don't know of any better way of feeling than when you feel like you've contributed to a positive cause. And I think that's what it's about.
Thank you, Ron. Bill?
I think I understand the question, but can you repeat it? Because
City has developed working partnerships with key leadership organizations, public institutions, and civic groups. As mayor, what role will you play to maintain these working relationships between the city and these organizations?
okay, very good. Well, in many respects, we do have great relationships, but I've seen a few that are fractured and haven't been positive because I've been involved for a long time in this town. I think that we've made gains, but they're not close to where they need to be. We're in this beautiful building, and you saw a partnership come together between UCM and the Lee Summit School District. That was what a huge victory or triumph that was. However, I see other relationships like between the school district and the Park and Rec that is just now taking a turn. It did not have a good relationship. I know. I was on the school board. I saw it firsthand. That can't happen in a community like this. And as mayor, someone such as the mayor needs to say, hey, we've got to work together. You have got to put differences aside from whatever and work together. The same thing, I could be very specific with other entities that don't have the best working relationships. And rather than just, put those names out and such, I just want you to know I'm going to promote and support everybody coming together, working together. If you're talking about a topic that is relevant to that organization, that church, that hospital, that governmental entity, as mayor, I'm going to be saying, hey, we got to get them involved, get them in here. Promote and support. Promote and support.
Rob, you good on the question? You want me to?
Yeah, no. Kumbaya, man. It's right, because what Bill said was this is like the happy question, the first question, if you don't mind me saying it that way. We have so many groups that do so many good things, and sometimes we don't celebrate that enough. It's much like the city's success. We don't talk about it. We just go about and do our business. It's a humble Midwestern thing. But so many of these groups that the city partners with, whether it's our public service agreement agencies, our Main Street organizations, a National Main Street Award winner, they're having a group in March 28th. They're having downtown Main Streets from around the entire United States come to Kansas City for a national conference. And oh, by the way, Lee Summit's so special that on the night of the big event for that group, they're bringing them to Lee Summit. I mean, if that doesn't make you excited. Our Chamber of Commerce is one of the largest Chamber of Commerce in the metropolitan area, and the other cities are a whole lot bigger, guys. So our EDC does work every day out there trying to gather and look for new employers. Our social service organizations, wow, we could talk for 2 hours on all the things that they do. And that's, as the mayor, it's our job to help share that good news. Does it get shared enough now? No. Could it be? Yeah, I think there are lots of ways, whether it's a weekly column in newspapers, whether it's more information coming out of City Hall. They're working to revamp the press group, trying to share the good stories of all the things going on in our community. Those are the things that we should celebrate. And if they're not strong enough, let's bring them together. Let's work together and let's make things better. We have a little program called, where am I on time? Okay, we have a little thing called CDBG, which is this federal program which only gives us about $350,000 a year to distribute to our nonprofits. And it's a big pain in the butt because of all the regulations. So let's find ways to help these organizations raise more funds and do more good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Bill, you're going to lead off on this next question. How do we continue to position Lee Summit as a hub for the arts, for entertainment, for the culturally rich opportunities that our residents have come here for and that we can draw visitors to from outside of our community?
Okay. You kind of teed up one of my topics that I'd like to at least mention tonight. First off, we are rich in the cultural arts with regard to talent in our community and passion. We have everything from the Lee Summit Symphony to the theater group, Summit Theater Group. We have musicians, actors, artists. We have so much to offer, and that I think we do, like similar to what Rob said, we do celebrate. We do come together for festivities and such, but I think that we I think we can do more. We can. My thing is, I'm always going to push for better. So even though we're having a lot of fun and we're doing great things, I'm going to be like, how can we get more people involved and make it a bigger event? Because bringing community together is what these festivities do. It brings people together and it makes for a healthy culture. I think that different things that I would like to do, I'd like to start talking about these stakeholders, about bringing a small convention center to Lee Summit, a way to capture an audience, trade shows, events, people to come and shop in our stores, eat in our restaurants, so that all the stress is not just on us to support and our rooftops. I think that that would offer opportunities again and it's another meeting place. It's another meeting place for our community, and we have some nice meeting places, but I think we all know that we're jam-packing Lee Summit North and Lee Summit West with these trade shows that we could really be capturing that audience and having them shop downtown Lee Summit and having them shop at Summit Fair and Summit Woods and all the different locations. So we can do more things to facilitate and support our cultural arts.
Thank you, Bill. Rob? Oh, Rob, and then you're up, Ron.
No. You're more than welcome to have the floor if you want it for now. Cultural arts, wow, that's great points. The success that we've experienced in this town feels like, we've done so much lately. But walk through the museum and look at the history of this town, whether it's the turn of the century in the 1900s, some of the family names that have been around that bounce off the walls of this town. There was entertainment, the theaters downtown, all the things that have gone on in the history of Lee Summit. What feels like we're at such a wave of so much right now is a continuation of a big wave. I think we have to finish. In 2013, we took an initiative to the voters, and it included 3 pieces of cultural arts facilities. It included finishing and doing an amphitheater at Legacy Park. It included a historical museum at the old post office, and it included an outdoor performance space in our downtown core. Well, we're 2 out of 3. We're 2 out of 3 so far, and we owe it to the voters to finish that 3rd piece. We've come up with some ideas. We've got an idea. We've even found a way to partner and make it bigger than what we originally anticipated. So I think we're going to deliver those things. But I think the word was mentioned, the inclusion of when you have cultural activity and cultural events, it brings a cross-section of people together. And it is not just one group or another. It's the entire community going and experiencing and enjoying these things together, whether it's music, whether it's theater, whether it's the arts. We have such a rich heritage here of that, and I think it's our job to continue to keep that healthy and to grow from there. So thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Ron? I will. So the question is, how do we continue to position Lee Summit as a hub for the arts, for entertainment, and for culturally rich opportunities, ones that keep our residents here and draw visitors from the outside?
Well, as a mayoral candidate, you do it by leading first. You go out and you identify the people that you need to use. We have resources here, I think it's been mentioned, but you bring those resources in. You try to get a group of citizens who are, not everybody's into arts. Let's just face it, there are lots of people who are, but I've never seen anything hurt too much by having a good quality arts type of culture in a community. But bring the people together that would have an interest in this. Listen to their ideas, give them a venue to expose those ideas. And then on top of that, there may be a time where you want to bring in some professionals, consultants to reinforce this or maybe tell you a more efficient way of doing it. And eventually, a good arts program usually will require a capital improvement of some sort. And alluding to what Bill said. But the point being is, as a mayor, you've got to be willing to lead this effort forward. You've got to understand what people want, and you've got to have people engaged. Once again, I keep using that word. Engaged in your community. I can't emphasize that part enough. But there's a place for it, but it isn't always the easiest thing to do. A lot of people don't care anything about it, so you have to bring them along. And I think you look outside, look to your neighbor and see what they've got and try to compete. So that's the way you're going to draw people here. Make them feel safe, feel like you're competing, give them something attractive to do.
All right, I've combined a couple of these questions from the audience that tie together pretty well. Ron, sorry, you will have this question. First, how long have you lived in Lee Summit, and what is your personal experience in city leadership?
I've lived in Summit my entire life. Sidetracked, my mother's lived her entire life. My experience in the community, I don't like talking about myself, so this is difficult for me to do. But I've been involved in a lot of organizations. I've been a chairman of the chamber. I've been chairman of the Lee Summit Symphony. I've been on half a dozen boards of commissions. I don't even remember. Politically, I was on council for 9 years. I served as pro tem 4 years. I definitely got the experience of what this is all about and the exposure to all of it. I went to school at Hazel Grove all the way through Lee Summit, so I've been here quite a while, and I've seen this company. I was telling a reporter earlier, when I was born, it was 2,500 people. We're now at 97,000. So you see a lot. I'm going to inject this, and I'm going to take credit for it. But there's a commercial out there that you've all seen, and the commercial, the old boy showing somebody strange, it's an insurance deal, and he said, "We know a few things because we've seen a few things." And I'm going to borrow that.
So, how long have you lived in Lee Summit, and what is your personal experience in city leadership?
I moved here in 1998, so, no, 97, so over 20 years. I got very involved in the community in the early 2000s. With regard to the question is citywide. I don't have the city experience, but I have a lot of leadership experiences in the community. I was the Business of the Year in 2008, and with this very organization, and you don't win Business of the Year unless your business is a leader and gives back to the community. I was the Chamber Board Member of the Year in 2013, I was given that award because I went above and beyond the call of duty of a board member. When it comes to the school board, it's not a city organization, but it is a governmental entity, and I personally audited scores of policies and put the substance back in them so they matched up with the statutes. I saved us hundreds of thousands of dollars per year by forcing contracts to be brought forward for bid, and I championed an increase in pay that was long overdue for all staff, teachers, bus drivers, and such. I've also been the president of the Kansas City Board of Realtors MLS, and I ushered in .loop, a digital signatures, which all agents just about now are using. I've given back to this community in many, many ways, but with regard to leadership ability, hopefully if you ask someone that knows me, you'll find that I'm the kind of person that leaves it all on the table. I'm going to give you my best. Thank you.
Rob, I think I skipped you. I apologize for that. So you can put a bow on this question. How about that? How long have you lived in Lee Summit, and what is your personal experience in city leadership?
Let's see here. I grew up in South Kansas City, other side of Longview Lake. I'll admit that it wasn't actually there when I was very young. Took some time and spent the best 5 or 6 years of my life in Columbia. Attending college, came back, and pretty much been, there's some people laughing about my time it took to get through college. Since that point, I've essentially been back in Lee Summit, so 20-ish years. My experience with city government is in 2012, I ran for city council and was elected. Field of 3 other candidates. In 2016, I ran again and was reelected. I've been selected by the council, and then I was reappointed recently by the mayor for 2 terms as the mayor pro tem. I've served as either the chair or the co-chair of every one of our council committees, some that don't even exist anymore, but we've had several committees over the years. I've been fortunate enough and humbled to serve as a liaison to almost every organization that we have a group for at City Hall. The first couple of years I probably overdid it, going to a meeting about every night, every month. So Quite a bit of experience with I think, city government. Was that what you were looking at? I think our bio stuff is out there. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. So we'll get back on track here. So Bill, you'll lead off with this question. How would you expand and diversify the city's economy? And we'd like to have you comment on expanding. So again, first, how do you expand and diversify the city's economy, and how would you look to expand our entrepreneurial environment?
Okay, expanding and diversifying the economy. I mentioned that convention center. The idea there is bring in outside sales tax dollars. And I think that we're in such a great position with the restaurants, the retail, the parks. I mean, there's so much here. We need to capitalize on it. We are a destination for businesses that want to be here. We have the school district. And so when it comes to the type of businesses, I truly feel we can be more picky, and we can say, hey, this is what we need. And we need a mayor and council that when we have an opportunity, maybe we go get them. We don't wait for them to come to us. We have a great EDC. Rick McDowell's here. We have a great chamber. These guys are pros, but they need support and help when we have maybe someone on the line that's looking at our community, or maybe we go get them and we strategize with them. With regard to the second part of the question was, what was the second part? Diversify the economy.
How do you look to expand the entrepreneurial environment? That's
a whole other topic. We're willing. This community has been willing to give incentives to big companies to come here. We need to be equally committed to our entrepreneurs and business people that are starting businesses. I know we've struggled to get some many times over. I've seen the different types of initiatives where we've tried to help entrepreneurs, but we've never really had a full commitment. And the only way we're going to get that is to bring more organizations to the table. It has to be a collaborative effort. I feel like sometimes the EDC takes the lead and the city tries to help out and the chamber is trying to help out, but it really needs to be more. It's going to have to be these big businesses. They're willing to collaborate with the school district. All these businesses, these big businesses, they're ready to collaborate on things. So, like I said, two questions.
We're squeezing them in. Go, Rob.
How do we expand and diversify our economy? Wow, where do we start? Let's talk about what we have. Everybody knows Lee Summit is a great community. Why? The quality of life, education, healthcare. We have 3 major hospitals now in Lee Summit, guys. We are the healthcare hub of not only eastern Jackson County, but a darn good argument could be made that we are the healthcare hub of all of Jackson County. When you talk to these hospital administrators, find out what's going on. They're not just coming from Warrensburg anymore. They're coming from Sedalia, they're coming from Jeff City, they're coming from Columbia. People are driving more than an hour to get health care in Lee Summit now. What does that mean? That means some people don't leave Lee Summit to go to work anymore. Some of these people have found jobs closer to home. That's part of diversifying and expanding our workforce and our economy. We have a stretch, and council's smarter than us and sooner than us, thought in advance to make a deal with Unity Village. Colburn Road is a prime opportunity for an office complex. Let's have a corporate woods. Why can't we? Because nobody's done it yet. Is it going to take a commitment from the city? We're going to be involved at some point. But there is an opportunity there. You see development go up. We see some developments now that aren't quite moving as fast as we want. Let's look at new ideas. Let's look at new industry. We get lost in high tech sometimes, when sometimes that high tech really is high tech manufacturing. We look at some of the things going on. We have a lot of metal and high-tech engineering companies in Lee Summit. You don't know about them because they're those little brick buildings on that corner or that corner, but there is a lot of high-tech industry in this town. Do we have the opportunity for more? Yeah, we do. And it's not just up to our public service agreement partners, it's up to all of us to do that. I think one of the things that we see, we have to grow what we have and keep what we have. We have small businesses that are impacted when development happens. What is the impact on them in the future? How do we keep those small guys? How do we keep the guy that has 20 guys in his shop wants to go to 50. Thank you.
Ron?
How do we expand and diversify the community, the city? You advertise. You say, hey, we're here. Let us know. And you go out and you try to attract these people. You put strong incentives, and I don't mean necessarily the TIF and that sort of thing. I'm talking about the incentives of we have good public safety. We have good infrastructure. We have a workforce, if it's not in Lee Summit, it's around Lee Summit. So we can attract people to Lee Summit. One of the most important things is, as a mayor, you need to be accessible to these developer type people and people who want to do this. That's your role, to represent the city, to try to attract people and try to get their attention. The EDC, the Chamber of Commerce, the people that have been alluded to, they do a great job. We support them financially, and we need to continue to support them financially. So you have to take a position on that. A lot of things they're looking to do to cut money sometimes is take them away from your public service. Those are the very people that go out and market for you. So you want to keep those people involved in your action towards drawing new businesses. I think we've done a pretty good job in the past of allocating places for manufacturing, for industrial, and for commerce, like shopping centers, things like that. We need to preserve land for that. We need to keep our standards up. We need to try to make sure that, we don't need to try, we need to make sure that if you invest in this community, your assets protected, because the quality that we offer you as a business person to come to this town, whatever your business is, we'll protect it for you. We'll make sure the standards are up. We'll stay vigilant on how we do things and the inspection process and the whole bit. So I think that's the way you expand. You advertise it and you go identify people, and then you show, here's what we're worth, and we're worth a lot.
Thank you, Ron. Rob, this question is coming to you. I hope you don't mind me standing. You know, I'm short, so my legs don't quite fit the rung here. But hey, okay, expanding on this a little bit, does the current economic development incentive policy provide appropriate tools for sustainable economic growth, and when would economic development incentives be appropriate?
Is that a form question in the booklet? That sounds familiar. The answer to that, Mike, is it's a good tool. When we approved that a couple of years ago, it was because we had heard so much that the recruiters, the people coming to town, the people interested in bringing their business here, they don't want to quite go to Lee Summit because they don't know what they might get. They don't know what's on the table, and it's a whole burdensome process, and they have to use certain people to get certain things and do what they want. As a council, we said, no, wait a minute. Why isn't everybody playing from the same page? We know what incentives we can offer. Let's find a way to, let's codify that. Let's put it there, and let's share that. And man, I would say over the last 3 or 4 years, we've seen some activity in Lee Summit, so I think that's a good thing. Is it sufficient? We just did some updates here recently to it. I think the good news is that when you've got a policy that's not even 5 years old, and both staff and elected officials are working to revise it and to review it constantly, I think we're trying to find the best living document that we can and use. One of the things that I don't know that is addressed in there, and it's come up recently, is there's some small businesses. A roadway project is going to affect a couple of small business owners. They've got very manageable rents today because of their location. When that land goes away, they're going to have to find another spot if they want to stay in Lee Summit. Okay, well, if you've tried to look for land in Lee Summit these days, it's not very inexpensive. And these are small business guys that might have 1 to 5 guys in their shop. They want to stay in Lee Summit. They want to keep their jobs here. But suddenly, them moving and building a building just doubled what they're used to on their monthly. So how do we incentivize enough to keep what we have and to help those small local businesses grow? Is it a short-term property abatement on the difference between what they pay today in property tax versus their new building? I don't have the answers to that, but we have to look for ways that as we use incentives that they make sense for our local economy.
Thank you, Rob. The question to you, Ron, does the current economic development incentive policy provide appropriate tools for sustainable economic growth, and when would economic development incentives be appropriate?
My question is longer than this question. Yeah. What's it take to be competitive? In the final analysis, what does it take for a community to be competitive? So you have to offer incentives. Some of them, not all projects need it, but usually the dynamic projects need it because they're very expensive. So you're constantly looking for ways to apply an incentive fairly and impartially. Not every project needs that thing, but many do, and you have to weigh it out. What's your return on your investment? What is your what will the taxes that you have to give up now in lieu of bring back to you later? An example I used was a lot of people don't like TIFs. You know, that's a terrible word for some people. But when I explained to them that how many of you used to shop at Independence Center before we had this shopping center? Most of you would raise your hand. Well, that was a TIFted project. So we have one out here. A lot of people got up in arms about it, but quite frankly, that money comes in here. The shopping center was built, and now it is matured, and the shopping center now pays the full taxes to the city and the school district. So there's benefits. So you need some incentives, and you need to keep moving your incentives through. There's lots of other types. In the business, they call it, what tools do you have to use to attract business? And I think you have to offer them, but I don't think you just arbitrarily give them. You got to make the developer or whoever it is work for that and make it valuable to your city in the end.
Mr. Baird, you want the question, or are you good?
No, I'm good. Thank you. Okay, so the positive, let me just say one thing negative and then the rest is positive. We don't have the best track record for TIFs. I mean, have we really gotten the return on the money? I just think that, and I don't blame anyone, I think the problem is the incentive policy. I think the incentive policy leaves too much subjectivity. It has some ambiguity. And with that ambiguity, the council, the mayor, the city doesn't necessarily have the best guidance. That should be a working document in which it changes. It changes as the times change. Think back a few years ago. I mean, were we really talking about recruiting e-commerce? I mean, to explain e-commerce, just, layman's terms, think of Amazon or companies like that. That's a big e-commerce. There's other e-commerce. We could recruit e-commerce here. That would be a healthy business for us. A convention center would be another situation where you might consider incentives. Those type of organizations, which are what we would be investing in for our future. We have to be business friendly. We can't say we're against incentives. However, we do need to have a policy that we can follow that takes out the subjectivity of incentives so that we can say, are we following the policy exactly? And I could get into the details of what I would like to see in the policy, but it really needs to be a collaborative effort between city council and other stakeholders in the community, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, Ron, you'll lead off with this next question. And consider that all three of you are business owners, business people in the community. As you think about this question, under your leadership as mayor, how do you intend to uphold and maintain a high level of professionalism and decorum with your colleagues, keeping in mind the consideration of a new code of ethics and code of conduct that's being considered with the council? Sure. It's a word. This is a wordy one. So consider your roles as businessmen in the community. As mayor, how would you uphold and maintain a high level of professionalism and decorum with your colleagues, and with the consideration of a new code of conduct, new code of ethics and code of conduct with the council?
I'm not sure I follow this, but let's say this. I'm a general contractor and a construction manager. I'm not going to build or bid city projects. That's about the best I can do to address it. I mean, I would look for others to be that, well, I really don't like this word, but people do. I would look for others to be transparent in what they're doing. There is a certain integrity factor that you have to follow and that you need to be involved in, you need to make your decisions based on. But I, as mayor, would be looking to have people prove to me that they're going to follow whenever an ethics policy is put out, and I've yet to see it myself, but it may be out there, I just haven't seen it, they are going to comply with the ethics that will be involved in dealing with themselves and dealing with their peers or their constituents. So I'm not sure exactly how to answer that, but you have to have a level of integrity. I personally, as a mayor, would want to see people do that, and I wouldn't be afraid to address it if it isn't being done.
Bill? Yes.
So there's an ethics policy that has been worked on by the city council, and I've read it and looked through it. And an ethics policy should be pretty much a very black and white type of thing, conflict of interest. There shouldn't really be a lot of back and forth on it. I mean, there's thousands of cities across the country that have adopted ethics policies. We can take one and copy it. I think what we've done with this one that I've seen that's been presented is we've done too much. We tried to put in all into one, a code of ethics, a decorum of civility, and an ethics policy. It just needs to be an ethics policy. And then we do another policy, which is I would like to do a policy of civility and decorum. And in that policy, that's where the council says, here's our ground rules. Here's what we're going to do. And we all come together and we say, this is how we treat each other with respect. And then the mayor's role would be to make sure that we're following that code of conduct or that civility. The one that's on the table right now is far too ambiguous. And when you have ambiguity like that, you're going to have major problems. You're going to have major problems with regard to conflict later. And you also, I don't want to say that I really feel that it infringes on constitutional rights. And that is not what the council is trying to do. They're just trying to figure out ways to get along better. And we can do this, but they need to be two separate policies. Thanks.
Rob?
Thanks, sir. I think maybe I'm going to interpret it differently, but I think the professionalism and the level of respect starts with the mayor. It starts when the mayor's meeting with people. It's starting with the mayor's getting somebody yelling at him in his face. It's when the mayor has people at council meetings talking about things that some of us don't quite understand. Maybe some of it makes sense to somebody, and there are other times we're all scratching our heads going, huh. So how do we maintain decorum or professionalism? I think it's the same way that we would in our professional lives. Listen to what's being said, figure out what they're trying to say to you, understand what they're saying, and try and ask questions to help yourself better understand. I use the Covey, seek first to understand, then to be understood. And I think that's, as I've gone through the roles, Mayor Pro Tem as a council member, trying to understand the difference of opinions. The ethics code is a great example of that. I said it should be one page and it should be about half of that. So where we are today is that we have about 10 pages of an ethics code because some people wanted to see everything under the sun in there, and we pulled policies from every city in the country. And then we had meetings after meetings, and then we didn't say anything, and then we wanted to say something. So it's been kicked around. The voters have been waiting on it for a year, and the council is due that. And where we are today is that we've got a policy, and I think everybody's happy. It's removed any worries about anybody's constitutional speech. It's specific where it needs to about ethics, but it doesn't go into what we call our council rules, or how do we behave, how do we have meetings. What's the level of civility that you should treat each other? Hey, I'll make it real simple. It's like you would with kids on a playground. How do you treat each other? It's the golden rule. Treat each other right, show some respect, and let's have our meeting. So, thank you.
Bill, this question comes to you first. All right. You done with the chit-chat?
I was asking him.
Come on.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that, because I was like worried about that ethics policy. And he's saying that they've already revised it and worked with it.
Excellent. This is a 90-degree turn on a question, but it came from the audience, so I'm asking it pretty much as worded. As mayor, what do you plan to do for the safety of our schools?
I grew up in a small town, and we had a culture, when you grow up in a small town, if somebody starts acting strange and such, the police go over to someone's house and say, "Hey, Robbie, what's going on? I heard you were waving a gun around earlier. Are you okay?" And that's how things worked, because everybody knew everybody, and that was a town of about 9,000 people, which is Lee Summit a long time ago, but we don't have that kind of, it's hard in a town of 95,000, so therefore you've got to work really hard at creating that culture. And I do think we have it. I'm telling you, I see it. I know the police probably get calls all the time. "Hey, I saw a person. I saw this. I saw that." I think we need to embrace that. We need to embrace that culture. With regard to, education is my thing. I was on the school board and I'm passionate about it, and I want those kids safe. And I'm telling you, I was pretty fired up about public safety for our kids at all times, because my kids go to Lee Summit High, and that's an absolute open area where they're walking outside all the time. There's just no, and you know why Lee Summit High is safe? Because you have teachers and you have a principal, Dr. Falkenberry. They're on point every moment they're there. I mean, if you were just to go over there and watch what happens, you have people outside. You have Darnell Sims, the officer on duty. You have Dr. Falkenberry, looks like a security guy at basketball games. I mean, he is intense, but he's the greatest. But I'm going to tell you, I'm not for guns in the schools. I was a teacher. My wife was a teacher. Those aren't things that you'll hear this mayor say. I feel that is that's not the solution. I know that's kind of bold, but
Like I said, it was a left turn, but it's a serious question. Rob, it's to you. As mayor, what do you plan to do for the safety of our schools?
As the mayor, I think we have the ability to have a good public safety force. We have an ability to partner with a lot of different groups. Some of our school resource officers are DARE officers. Some of those are funded by grants and other outside funding sources. We have to make sure that we're looking at all opportunities to fund safety and safety personnel the way we can. Do we, as elected officials, it's very hard to explain sometimes, because the city council and the mayor have a role, and then there's a school board that has a role. And the school board has the role to manage and operate the schools. And our job as the city council and elected officials is to make the ecosystem so that they can do that safely, so that the roads to get those kids to school are there, so that the water getting to those schools is good, and so that the folks protecting those kids at the school are there. There's not a lot directly that we can do as elected officials, but we help set the stage for the other systems that I think include and increase the safety at the schools.
Thank you, Rob. Ron, you want the question? Or are you good? You want?
It seems like such a simple question that the mayor should be able to go in and make things happen for the safety of the school. It isn't necessarily the case. All we can do is provide leadership in the community in terms of we're aware of it. We want to see it improved. Personally, I would prefer to see that the parents, the grandparents, and the school district teachers and personnel make a decision on what they're going to do. My kids are grown. I don't have the fear of my kids being in school and being terrorized. But those folks that are grandparents and parents of school-age children, I can't think of anything more important for them. So from the mayor's office, I'm going to support the police chief. I'm going to support the district and what they do with regard to how they identify, how they want to secure their assets and their assets for the kids. So I'll support that. And I'm not going to sit up here and tell anybody how to do it, because I'm not qualified to tell anybody. But I sure as hell can offer my support, and the city council can offer their support, and together we can try to make this community as safe as we can for our assets.
Thank you, Ron. Our next question Rob, you're leading off. We've mentioned this a little bit already. Downtown, one of our shining spots, right? What other type of investments would you like to see in the downtown area?
Oh, wow. Can I get out a list? I'll tell you you talk to people, and I've been fortunate. I got involved with Missouri Municipal League when I first got elected, and that's taken me around the state to meet with other elected people. And there are two things we talked about. They talk about your education, your quality of life, and they talk about your downtown. And people recognize and love coming to our downtown. It truly is the heart of this city. Without the downtown, the expansion that this town has gone through to 95,000 people wouldn't feel like a community. What that downtown does, it brings everybody together. They know the area. They love coming to the area. Not everybody does. I'll give them that. Some people don't like parking, having to walk a couple blocks. But our downtown is such an important part of our community. It truly is the heart. What I'd like to see us finish the outdoor performance space. We currently have a commitment from a community partner, the CID board for the downtown area, to do a farmer's market, a permanent farmer's market and pavilion downtown. You know, I struggle as I sit up here and hear about all these things that, guys, we've been working on some of these things for 3 or 4 years. We're not there, but we're getting so close. I saw another neighboring city to the east is talking about their permanent farmer's market, and I felt like saying, well, you guys are a little late, but you're ahead of us now. So we have to continue to keep the pedal down on making improvements to the downtown core, doing the things that keep it the vibrant core that it is. Talk about redevelopment. Talk about the opportunity for housing. What does housing look like around the downtown area? There are some that want to put up 300-unit apartments. There are some that want only single family. How do we come together? What's the right housing mix in our downtown area, and how do we help encourage that? Thank you.
Ron. Yes. I am.
When we built City Hall downtown, I was on City Council at that time. One of the things I used to use in my sales pitch, for lack of a better way of saying it, to the voters, is that I would ask this question: what is the single biggest common denominator to this community? And it's the downtown. Everybody, no matter where you live in Lee Summit, you get to benefit from a quality downtown. And we moved City Hall down there, and we made that a focal point for it to be, and it has worked out. And then people after I've been gone have done other things. What would I like to see expanded to? I think we need a little more parking down there with a parking garage. That's one thing. Two, I really want to preserve the boundaries of downtown, because I think if we get too far spread, I mean, I don't mind going out some, but if we get too far spread out on downtown, sometimes larger is not better. You know, hold on to what you've got. Be prudent in the way you give. I want to say you accept certain developments, and work to keep the quality of the downtown high. Keep the standards up. We have some themes in downtown. We need to do that. But as far as a specific thing, the thing I think of is the downtown. But that'll be a capital improvement, and more than likely it's going to have to be voted on by you folks out there. So stay engaged.
I'm a big downtown advocate because I've had a building down there for since I've been downtown since 2004. I love the downtown. I get to walk down to 3rd Street Social and the other restaurants and such, and it's really wonderful. But I'm also a commercial real estate agent, so I've seen a lot of opportunities that we haven't been able to capitalize on. So I'm going to name a few things that these are my wish list, and then I'm going to tell you the issues we have. It'd be wonderful if we had a convention center downtown, and then they could just leave the hotel and the convention center and go right downtown and shop in the number one downtown in the nation. The farmers market that Rob mentioned could be combined with the performing arts center. So in other words, that there are some creative ways that could be done. These architects are amazing. Personally, I've tried so hard to get luxury apartments because I know that there are a bunch of boomers in here that want to be downtown, but they have to have one level living. So how would they do that? Have to be luxury apartments, good size apartments with all the bells and whistles that we were talking about earlier, the Corian and all the upgrades. And then we definitely need some apartments for these millennials because you know what? Lee Summit downtown is pretty cool. These millennials are actually saying, I can live here. Instead of going to the, somewhere so I can be close to the power and light, we're actually seeing millennials say, I could live downtown. So much so that they're willing to buy an older house. A millennial buying an older house, right? So to me, the problem with all of those is that it's not going to happen unless some type of incentive would be done. It doesn't make sense. I could put it in front of Ron. He'd put the numbers to it and say, can't do it. I could put it in front of developers in town, and they would say that the numbers aren't there. I got to have a little bit of help. So we would have to weigh that. But there's some opportunities.
Ron. Here's a question for you. If we are to meet here at the end of your term as mayor, what would have to have happened for you to call that term a success?
Well, my whole I don't know if I can do this in 10 minutes, but I'll try. I'm running. My theme is preservation of values. I have 4 of them: strong leadership, quality investment, genuine kindness, and engagement, community engagement. I'm going to consider it successful if each one of these is increased. Whatever the benchmark is here now, if we have those 4 issues come 4 years from now and come forward and are expanded on, and I get more people engaged, and the community sees itself as a kinder and gratuitous person where we have gratitude, or we have quality investments, and not just quality investments, but dynamic investments. I would love to see an operation come to town that becomes a destination to this city. So if we get that, we've raised the bar. And then finally, strong leadership in the sense that I was able to look out and get people involved, show them that part of leadership is being patient and understanding. Part of the leadership is listening, and get people to understand that they should be able to expect from their leadership those qualities. Then I would consider it a success.
Bill, the same question. If we are to meet at the end of your term as mayor, what would have happened for you to consider it a success?
A whole lot of things would have happened because, and I'm not sure it would be a convention center. I don't know if it would be luxury apartments. I don't know if it would be, some other initiative, but it would be something, because what they would say is that guy was a listener. He listened to the public. He listened to the citizens. He listened to the stakeholders. He got them at the table. He got everybody involved at the table, and that made the difference, because you would see a more activated citizenry. You would see amazing partnerships between institutions and entities and businesses and organizations, and you would see great progress. But the reason would be because this community came together for common causes, and it's all right there in the making. So what a great opportunity it would be for me to be a part of it.
Rob, meeting here at the end of your term as mayor, what would have happened to make it a success?
Mike, if I get elected mayor, that's a success to me, but it's not about me. I think it's what has we as a community done. Where are we in 4 years or 8 years, whatever the case may be? Where are we? Have we taken what we had and made it better? Have we done our best to include and involve everyone? Have we found a way forward? Have we made it better than we found it? And I think if we come to a successful future like that, then I'm more than happy with whatever recognition I get or don't get. So thank you.
So we have other questions, so don't think this is just us coming up with a question we didn't have to ask you, but it truly is an opportunity for you to answer something that you feel like you want to bring to us. But what question, and Bill, you're leading off on this, what question didn't we ask you? Then you can answer it.
Well, I'm a preparer. I like to prepare for everything. Well, you people over there know, a lot of people here know, I go to great lengths to prepare. And so therefore, this is the hardest question of all, because I'm like, oh, I should have served myself a softball pitch. I would say I can talk about how important it is for the community, or excuse me, the council, to re-energize and kind of hit reset. And I think that we can do that by coming together on lots of issues. We can figure out the whole city employee compensation issue. It's bigger. It may seem bigger than it is. It's not. There's a solution, and then we can start moving together and start being a council and mayor that you can be really proud of with regard to being friendly to the other businesses coming here, being together as a team. And yes, we're going to disagree. I mean, that's going to happen, but that's okay. That's okay. So that would probably be a quick answer.
Thank you, Bill. Rob?
Sorry, what was the question?
What question
What
did we not
question
ask
should
you?
you have asked? Wow. I guess I would say, what do you feel like the council and the city has accomplished in the last few years? And I think that we as a community have done a lot in the last 6 years. We've taken an airport business plan and a bunch of rusty T hangars, and we now have 5,500 and 4,001 foot runways and new buildings coming out there. We have companies coming to Lee Summit because they can get here via airplane. We have additional fire station on the way. We have fire trucks and ambulances that we didn't have previously. We have, I think we hired 9 last year, new firefighters. We try to continue to increase our public safety presence. We've taken projects like the 50 and 291 South to the voters and said, hey, anybody want to change at 50 and 291 South? And what we've seen is this community overwhelmingly go, oh yeah, it's time. And looking at the projects with the 15-year CIP renewal and the parks tax renewal, we've tried to plan ahead. And it's not the decisions we make today. They're not about today. They should be about tomorrow and the next year and the next year and further down the road. We get too caught up in what's going on today, Bill's right. The salary thing is merely a budget exercise. At the end of the day, we have numbers. We have so many numbers. We have to spend them the way everybody wants. How do we make it fair to as many people as we can? It's a budget exercise. Planners love budget exercises. So I think, where has the community been and where are we going? I think we've come a long ways in the last few years, and I think there's still better things ahead. So thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Ron?
I wrote down a question here, and the question that you haven't asked that I think is central to all of us is, what impact will this have on your family? And I don't know, probably a bunch. But my family is used to me not being around that much, so believe me. And my wife, my daughter here, but it will have an impact. It takes away. Vacations will have to be adjusted, or my wife thinks probably won't ever happen, but that's not true. The daughter's going to want me to come over and how to figure out how to fire up her heater, and I'm not going to have the time sometimes to do that, or I'll be in a meeting. But it's that sort of thing. But it does affect us, and the price for the glory is paid for by the members of the family. So you didn't ask that, but I'm going to tell you, it has an effect.
Thank you, Ron.
All right, we're coming around the final turn here. So lastly, we'd like to give each candidate an opportunity to provide any closing remarks. Please keep these remarks to 2 minutes or less. We will reserve the order, or reverse the order we used during opening remarks. So Ron, you'll be first, then Rob, then Bill. So Mr. Williams, you have the floor. 2 minutes.
Okay, I'm going to come out and I'm going to talk to you because these other guys have been doing that. So now I'm out here and I want to talk to you directly. I'm not one much to talk about myself. In fact, I've got a little gal out here now that just says you need to say more about yourself. It's not my style. I don't do it. I just like to get in and do things. I try to treat people with kindness and respect. I like to show them and bring them along if I can. And I think that essential to leadership is a willingness to be patient, listen to what someone has to say, show some confidence, and be decisive in what you do. That's me. I will do that. Only thing I can tell you, but I will do that one way or the other. I'm not afraid to go into a topic. I'll talk about any topic you want to talk about. Sometimes it probably shouldn't be so public, but I'll talk about those too. So anyway, the only thing, because I don't like really talking about myself, I'm only going to state the only fact that I know. Of the three of us, I've got the most experience and the most depth in the community. If that counts for something, then I ask you to vote for me. Thank you.
Rob, 2 minutes to summarize.
What was the question? Sorry, it was funny the first time. Well, first of all, thank you. Thank all of you for being here. It means the world to me. Thank you guys for the unlikely job of trying to make us look smart. Thank you, gentlemen, for being involved and being here with us. It's humbling when you're on this side of it to see what happens, but it's important. So where do we go from here? How do we make this community a better place? Man, we have a great starting point, don't we? And that's not because of today's council. It's not yesterday's. It's the one before that and the one before that. We continue to grow and do good things because people before us laid the groundwork. They said not what's tomorrow's problem, but what's the problem next year? What's the problem 5 years down the road? What's the problem 10 years down the road? Are we doing the things that we need to do? Are we reinvesting in our downtown? Are we encouraging and supporting cultural arts? Are we doing the things that show that we care about our employees? Are we making salaries and compensation important? Are we giving everybody a fair shake? Are we doing the things that make us as a community great? So I would appreciate your support. I'm humbled the fact that you're here and listen to us for, I guess it's been 2 hours now. So thank you all for being here.
Bill?
Bill, you have 2 minutes to summarize.
Okay, yeah, they are gentlemen, and I appreciate you guys as well. I think it's really great that we have good people, 3 good candidates, I feel, running for office for this. My 3 priorities are policy and accountability. I'm a policy guy. I'm going to be big on community engagement. I've said it all night long, and I'm going to be big on economic strategy. You see, I'm an idea guy. I like to throw things out there, try to find the right people, and work together. And I'm excited about this. I'm looking forward to it. I can't believe the passion I have for this. I'm shocked at how excited I am about it. The question that you didn't ask me was, what's most important to me in my life, and that's family. My wife, Hillary. I love sports. I love beaches because that's where Hillary's happiest. I love the movie It's a Wonderful Life, and I'm a crazed fanatic. I have a huge collection. And I love agendas. I make my family sit through meetings and agendas, and we start with our mission statement that we live healthy lives, physically, mentally, and spiritually. And that's what I want to do for Lee Summit. We want to be a healthy community, physically, mentally, spiritually. And thank you all, and thank you to the Chamber.
So thank you, candidates, for being here this evening, for participating in our forum. We also want to thank again those who have made this possible today, Missouri Innovation Campus for their hospitality. Again, our sponsors, Will Gibson with Down to Earth, Mark Parrish with the law firm Boyd, Kinter, Thomas, and Parrish, Jabbar Wesley with Spire Energy, and behind the camera, Chad Godfrey with Summit Video Services. Thank you for partnering with us to make this possible tonight. And thank you all for being here. So as you wrap up and pick up your things, we appreciate the audience, your participation for offering and bringing the questions forth. We tried to bring that into our forum tonight. I want to make sure your attention is also turned to the program where we do have Other forums coming up, the City Council Forum will be March 14th, again, same time, 5 to 8, here at this location. The Lee Summit R7 School Board Forum will be March 27th, same time, 5 to 8 p.m. at the Gamber Center. So thank you again. We look forward to hopefully seeing you then, and thanks again to our candidates.